Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Book, 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 book. Julian's knocking.
Come in. Welcome back to Beaching About Life, and today is really beaching.
Yeah,
because we're on this really
in a
cool
Exuma,
beach
in
Exuma.
Bahamas.
Yeah, on the north side of it.
Fortunately, the weather has changed, because for last days it was like cloudy and rainy days. And
It was like
today it's like
Northern Europe
it's
in
not
the
bad,
fall.
isn't it?
So yeah, it's really.
So we
really
decided
nice.
to take our gear and our Canon and and make some.
And our Samsung.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, we're not getting paid for this.
Totally.
All of it we paid for.
So we decided to.
Take on another question from you guys.
Yeah, so today is gonna be more sailing than last time, because last time we were talking about relationships. Ships? So it's like a sailing.
Relationships, yeah.
Relationships.
Wow.
So it's like sailing. Okay,
Wow.
so last time on our previous episode we were talking about relationship.
And today we're going to talk about ships.
Ships, so today's ships.
Drop the relation part.
So we got some questions, and thank you guys for questions. We're really grateful and appreciate that you are so interested in our boat.
Yeah, so the question that keeps reoccurring.
It's about our trolley, so our Trimaran.
Yeah, the question that keeps reoccurring is that what are the advantages and disadvantages of having a trimaran over a catamaran or over a monohull? I think the former is kind of fairly obvious for most who sail, but also in terms of why did we choose this boat? So I think all that kind of connects into one good discussion.
The question is really long, so I think today's episode is gonna be only about that. But we would like to make a video only about technical things. But I think Bart is gonna do it.
Yeah, eventually I'd like to, because I'm sure there's going to be questions about, okay, what did you guys do during the big refit? Because for those of you who don't know, we bought the boat in 2014, and then we spent a year fixing things up and changing them and modifying and whatnot, and we put a lot of changes into it. So what you see today on the boat, if you watched Boat Tour, is substantially different from what the original was.
We did everything from scratch.
So we'll make, I already promised it to a few people that we'll make an episode dealing specifically with that. What did we do in that year? What have we changed? Why did we change it? And you know, what didn't work, what doesn't work, what worked, and what works now. So Yep.
Okay, super. Okay, so why did we fall in love with that boat?
Well, first of all, when you're buying a boat, you have to answer yourself a question: what is it for? What's the whole point? What's the mission? What's the idea of having a boat? For us, the idea was that we want to live on it. We want to live aboard,
and our friends, and friends of friends,
and we do want to, and we do want to have friends over. We want to show people around and share our lifestyle.
That's why we needed quite a lot of space on it.
Right. So we were immediately pretty much ruled out a monohull, because a monohull of the size that would house all these people that we wanted to take was out of our range. Whereas, as you know, catamarans and multi-hulls in general have a lot more living space inside.
Plus storage space.
Plus storage space, yes. Definitely per length. Even though they're more expensive on the same length overall, it still is, I think, if you're looking in terms of square meters or square feet of area to live on, it's still a much better deal than a monohull.
So first thing is it's got a lot of space.
Space. So if we were going just by space, we would have picked either a catamaran or monohull, and that's exactly how our whole history started. We started with a 40-foot catamaran, and then we almost immediately ruled one out, because when we saw it and we just basically walked around, we didn't even sail it. Actually, we did sail one. We decided that it's too small in terms of space. It was too lightly constructed, and basically too small also for the ocean-going voyages that we want to do. So that was out. So we knew that next step is something in a 45-ish, 45 foot or about 13-meter range, give or take. We looked at some, and we were already looking at more advanced cats like Outremer. Well, let's face it, the majority of boats, of multi-hull boats on the market today is not meant to be performance cruising. They're pretty good and broad reaching, but they're not extremely good, and definitely not good for going upwind. And this is, I'm going to be jumping points here, but this is a major point here. Trimaran versus catamaran. If you're trying to go upwind in a catamaran, good luck. It's not happening. Most catamarans will not do any decent, reasonable way upwind. You need two big engines, and that's your upwind going. Trimarans, on the other hand, there are immensely better. They're just there's no comparison. The trimaran will go to the wind, upwind, just like any good monohull. So, yet at the same time, it's just as fast or faster going downwind or broad reaching or reaching. So there you have it. There's already a big comparison between the tri and a cat. If we throw a monohull into this whole mix, a good monohull will probably do the same as a good trimaran upwind, but then as soon as you start burning away the trimaran, or the catamaran for that matter, will leave any monohull in the dust, any comparable. We're looking at Outremer 45. We decided that yes, it's a really nice boat and it's a good performing boat, but it's still not enough space. Because the problem is this: you got these three sliders. You got a price, you got a comfort, and you got the speed. And if you want the comfort and the speed, then the price goes through the roof, right? Because then you have to go into carbon construction, you have to make the boat light, and it's really, really hard to get a boat that performs and has a space and doesn't cost you $1 million. Hence this one. And it was just an accident.
Okay, so let's summarize. So we got a storage place, and then we got speed because we wanted to travel all over the world, so we couldn't get the very slow boat.
And we wanted to sail, not motor.
Yes, and even run away from any hurricane that is coming. No.
That's a whole another subject I will touch upon in a second.
But it's gonna be in the next video, honey. Okay, so we got a storage place, so we got a speed, and so the storage means also comfort. And plus this boat is crazy because it's so stable on the waves that sometimes when we are sailing so furious, so fast, so we cannot even feel that we are moving. So this is crazy, especially when we are sailing downwind, so it's like crazy.
Broad reaching, yeah.
I really love that.
Yep.
So I think these are the very most important advantages of having our boats, our trimaran, because there are many trimarans on the market, but that one that we have is the only one. And so yes, I think that's why we fell in love with the boat. And maybe you have any more advantages?
Well, I wanted to talk about something that you just touched upon. Is the big thing is, again, when you trying to buy a boat, ask yourself a question: what is it going to be for? And if it's going to be for living aboard, for cruising with your family, then however crazy your sailing soul is, go for comfort first, because if your family doesn't feel comfortable and they rebel after a few months, your entire dream is going out the window. So it's important that your family feels the way Anya feels right now, that she actually is comfortable. You know, it still is not a stable floor in an apartment or a house, you know, so make it as good as it can be for them. And if it needs, if that means buying a slow boat with a slow cat, you know, let's say with big engines,
still,
so be it.
Yeah.
Because inevitably, even we cruise a lot, right? We clocked what, for over 33,000 miles in the last 3 years, right? And we still spend effectively about 90% of our entire time on anchor or on the mooring or in the marina. Marina the least, but sometimes we do. So just mathematically speaking, your boat is really your house first and foremost, and after that it's a boat. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, but this boat has its disadvantages, and
yes,
fortunately there are only few. One of them is,
but they're significant.
Yeah, but one of it is like has both advantages and disadvantages because of the, for example, wide. It's like our beam is 36 feet, so it's like a 12 meters
36.7, yeah, it's almost, it's 11.5 meters wide.
This is the maybe it's not most important, but it's important when you want to spend a lot of time in marinas. We knew that we are not gonna spend a lot of time in marinas because it's very expensive for us, and for in many places there are not available any spots for us because there are no space, especially when it's high season. And sometimes you cannot even enter to the marina because of that entrance is
too narrow.
Yes, yeah, too narrow. So yes, but we knew that we're gonna spend really little time in the marina, so that for us it wasn't a big deal, because as Bartek said before, we normally spend time on the anchor, sometimes on the buoy, on the moorings. But yes, sometimes we need to go to the marina to take water or diesel or whatever. And so this
and that's not usually a problem. If most marinas, you know, as long as the entrance is wide enough, we can get in, at least take on the diesel and fuel. But most of the time, there's no space for us.
And somebody asked us if we paid 3 times more than for normal sailboat. It doesn't. It doesn't work like that. It depends. In Europe,
it depends.
Maybe, yes.
Well, first of all, with this kind of boat, you have to plan ahead. So we usually email, call, find out, you know, whether we can even fit in. What is the price? You know, and this way we don't just end up at the doorstep.
And then we pay 400 euro per day. So
at someone's mercy. What was I going to say? I don't know. I lost it.
Yeah, that we normally plan when we are going to the marinas, and we don't.
Okay, I know what I was going to say. Yes, of course we plan when we go to the marina, but again, coming back to this initial question, when you're thinking about buying a boat, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you're going to do?
Sorry, I need to go to help Julian to open the crackers.
So let me talk for a little bit. When you're buying a boat, you gotta ask yourself what you're gonna do. Well, first question was like, are you gonna cruise with your family, right? And second, where are you gonna cruise and how long you're gonna cruise, in terms of not how long, how many years, but how many days a year are you gonna cruise. If you're gonna live long term and full time on board like we do, then it makes sense to ignore the fact that you have a wide boat that poses problems with marinas, and instead offers much larger comfort, because let's face it, our beam makes it all the more comfortable at sea. And a lot of times we sit at anchor in places where nobody else is sitting, because it would be flat out you know, uncomfortable for them to sit there, or dangerous. Because if you're sitting in a monohull in big waves on the anchor, you know, you can't cook for good, you know, it's just no good. There's no rest for people, you know. So in the meantime, we're sitting almost flat and we're happy.
But so, I would like to add that beam, so like this 12 meters for me is like only advantage.
We have, that's a big, Well, some people actually look at it as an advantage too, but disadvantage is you only have one engine. Of course, if you're used to sailing monohull, it's not an issue, right? Because I always had one engine. If you were used to sailing a catamaran, well, first of all, having two engines is one, makes the boat really easily to maneuver, because if you're standing still, you can just basically turn around back and forth, left and right, you know, turn on the pin. You can do anything you want.
Plus, it makes you more safer, you know, when you got two engines, in case one of them is, you know,
exactly. That's the second advantage. If you lose one engine, vast majority of boats are perfectly steerable, drivable under one engine. So you still have the other engine. You don't have to worry. You can still get out of the fix. So yeah, Trimaran. You just have to drive it like a monohull. You have to keep in mind that if you have a lee shore just next to you, you have to stay away from it. You have to think alternatives. You can't just go right next to the rocks and you know, all of a sudden something happens to the engine and you're right on it. You know, you gotta keep it in your mind. On the catamaran, it's a lot easier, right? I mean, the likelihood of having two engines quit all at the same time, pretty much zero, right? So guys get pretty complacent on catamarans, and that's fine, because it's very safe. You can, you know, one engine quits, you should just keep going. You just add gas on the other one and get out of there, and then figure it out when it's safe to do it. So the advantage of having a single engine, a lot of monohull guys will tell you, is maintaining one instead of two. Sure, double the work. So whatever your comfort level is, maneuvering under one engine is tricky.
Especially with our boat.
Yes, the boat is very wide. It had bow thruster, and it actually had a pretty big bow thruster, but it's so shallow draft that it would cavitate. So you can't get enough thrust out of the bow thruster on this boat to make it anywhere effective. So when it did break for the second time, we decided not to even fix it. It's there, but it's not working. So we learned to maneuver this boat without a bow thruster, and you get used to it. Like anything, you just have to think ahead. This boat will turn around. Like for example, if we have a wind from the bows, right? And as long as you keep it straight up, it's fine. But as soon as it catches any kind of wind from the side, there is no draft on the bow side, right? So it immediately does this, right?
This is very dangerous.
If you plan on it, if you look where the wind is and you're maneuvering in the marina, you can use it to your advantage. If you get caught without knowing that this is going to happen, SOL. So yeah, one engine. The key is to have a rudder that swings quite far. We made a modification to our rudder that it went from 30 to 35 degrees. It did make a difference, believe it or not. And we put a deeper rudder too. Effect of it is such that even if you're standing still, you can go rudder to one side all the way to the limit and then punch the engine really hard, and the boat literally almost swings around. So it is possible to turn this thing almost on the pin now. So it's not easy, but it works. Next,
I think that's the end.
That's the end?
That's the end. Disadvantages.
The end of the world.
And one of the most important advantage is that after we bought this boat, we totally redecorated it and make it on our own, and you know, we did all almost from scratch.
Did you know?
So we do know all the parts, all of the boat in details.
Yeah, we had a choice, somewhat of a choice. We could have gone for a large catamaran, high performance, but it was a bit too expensive for us. We just could not afford it outright, and the bank wouldn't loan us that much money. It was over $500,000 back then, because it was in euros and the exchange rate blah blah ended up being over $500,000. And I think that was sort of like a godsend sign, because in the meantime this trimaran, this this Trimaran came on the market, and it's been sitting there for a little bit, and it was in neglected condition, so we were able to get it for a very good price. And this is the only way I was able to swing those 3 sliders, remember that I was talking about, to get the comfort and speed and not necessarily pay millions of dollars. That's the only way you can get it. Of course, there's a huge disadvantage of that, because you gotta know what the hell you're doing when you're modifying the boat. And trust me, we didn't. Not all of it. We thought we know a lot about boats, but having your own boat is a whole another level of involvement and knowledge. So yeah, we did tank some money into some solutions that were stupid and didn't work out, and I'll be happy to share them with you so you don't do it again. And that's going to be in that episode that I was talking about, that we'll talk. I'll go around the boat and show you everything that we changed. But the point is this, that what Anya was trying to make is that the beauty of this solution was, first of all, yes, we got it cheap, but then we tanked another that much money into it. But what was really enticing for me was that I knew that yes, we're going to spend a year working extremely hard to get this all done, and we're going to go cruising a year later than we planned, but we're going to know this boat inside out, yeah, every single little thing. And
the second reason was that we weren't satisfied with many things on the boat, the quality and
yeah, there was a lot of issues with a finish. You know, it's a prototype boat, I understand. I knew what I was getting into, maybe not in details, but I knew there was going to be a lot of work with it. So I accepted it. I take it as it is. It's fine. There's a price for everything, right? I mean, if you're buying a boat, if you're buying anything really, you know, if it needs work, it's up to you to judge, you know, what is that you have to put into it and how much you're willing to pay for it. So you end up with something that works. Kids are hungry.
Okay, but we're absolutely in love with the boat. This is like, for us, it's like a perfect house we even couldn't ever imagine, dream of. So it's like a best. We are, every time we just look at it from the distance, move honey, out here, sorry. So we just absolutely in love, and we just, you know, admire it. So it's like, it's our love.
We do.
So it's a lot of, there are so many advantages, so we could talk about forever, but we don't want to make you bored or get you bored.
It sails excellent. It's got a lot of comfort. It's got a lot of space. We love it.
Looks good.
It's hard to maneuver
for us,
and it's pretty finicky sailing. But once you get everything right, it sails like a dream.
If you haven't seen our boat tour, so you can always
definitely see a boat
it now
tour,
because we just show you how it looks from the inside, mainly our living space. And okay, so I think this is it. So remember, leave a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done it yet. And so next time we are gonna talk about
something.
Ships or relationships?
Relationships or relations?
Okay,
or relationships.
so now it's high time to take some bath and put something to our stomach.
And feed the kids.
Okay. Bye guys.
Bye.
Oh, there's the one thing I forgot. The three fingers.
Yeah,
fingers on our bows.
On our bow.
What does it mean? So it got two meanings. One is because we were thinking of putting something
cool that means three holes, right?
So we just came up with the idea to putting three fingers. And then we wanted to check in the Google what
then we put it on the hull, and then later we Googled it and we found out that apparently it's
beep beep beep
beep beep beep in parentheses. Yeah, it's basically the middle finger in parentheses.